what they're saying AI can do, it cannot do it now in a normal average business sense.
Mhm.
It has its limitations.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but every iteration of ChatGPT or even Claude, to me, is getting dumber and dumber. My theory is because the mass of what's online is dumb, and majority of the time, mass of people make the wrong decision.
Okay, welcome back to Expandable. Got a insight on something that is happening, and I want to get your perspective. So, AI is all the rage. Everybody's talking about it, how they can implement it. Every company's putting it on their sheet for what they're doing next quarter on Wall Street. It's driving the economy effectively right now. Is the whole conversation. Whether it's actually effectively driving it is a different question.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just kind of carve out one aspect of the market, and that's software businesses or SaaS companies. And I think maybe fintech might fall into that too. But SaaS companies, they've been kind of hit hard lately.
Oh yeah,
and they're reporting that it's because of AI, and I think that it partially is, because when you start to look at what AI can do, and you look at SaaS software, there's going to be a lot of overlap there, potentially a lot of overlap where it's taking over what the software is actually doing. But I think, so rapidly is kind of where the big question mark comes in. So as I've been observing and talking to people and looking at everything, my perspective is, and I'm curious to hear yours from, your vantage point is, I think a lot of CEOs didn't know how many licenses or users or seats that they really were paying for that weren't being used on all of these, subscriptions they're signed up for. And I don't think that the teams who bought them are, near fully maximizing the value of them. So like let's take HubSpot or Salesforce or, something that everyone knows, but it's, a big company. If you were to really look into that, I think what you'd find is no one's really ever fully utilizing those programs, but they're paying way more for them.
No, and I've, at our size, I never purchased any of the Salesforce.
Right.
And then how many software companies are built on top of Salesforce too?
Correct. So you have this sort of house of cards in the market that's been built. And I don't think that it's been utilized to its capacity at all.
No, but they put on there, every business is once. And then so you've got all that built in, but what is necessary?
All the features are there, but most people aren't using it. The other side of it, which I think is the bigger light that's being shown on, the bloat is kind of my point here, is the data. So I think that, I know everybody who I've talked to and I've seen that's talking about it in my world is saying that they don't know how to access or utilize, forget the strategy part of it, but just utilize the data that they have in these programs. Whether you're talking about a CRM or any other type of SaaS tool, which shows that they bought something that they don't really know how to use. It's not even fully utilizing. They just don't even know how to use it because all their data is there.
Think about how most businesses buy software anyways, to implement across platform. It is usually the higher ups or,
someone who's
the middle managers below like the higher ups.
Yeah.
So then they're dealing with the other salespeople back and forth. And so then you've got that whining and dining atmosphere that, you don't always have the best of breed that actually wins. It's who they become friendly with and who they got wasted with at the convention.
Right.
And so then you got that pushed through, and now, they didn't get the buy-in of all the people that actually use it.
Then they take it back and try to sell it to their people who are actually using it.
And then when they deploy it and get it, mostly software to me are a bunch of liars and say we can do this and none of it is worth a shit.
Yeah.
And now
you're in real world use cases.
And then you push it to all of the individual employees that are actually going to use it, but you didn't get their buy-in from the beginning. And then I think too, it's partial. I think some companies are using AI as a reason for layoff. Other than, they had so much useless crap that they hired and none of it made any difference to move the needle. Like they had all these divisions of people that really had no substance that they added.
So on the opposite side, the first point is CEOs are now, they're focus has been on, oh, I don't know, we're not using this. We don't know how to use it. And we've got too many seats. So why are we even paying for
and
this?
hopefully
Let's get
they're
rid of
using
it.
AI to tell them, that person tell them, hey, the goodwill is going to pay off. They can fire that person and say, no, everything you did is crap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one side of it. But if you look at the other side of it, I think it's AI is being sold the same way that we're sold this other stuff.
Very true.
They're coming in and saying, look, you need to.
It's the same thing. Yes.
And then they're reporting back and saying, hey, we've got all these seats. And look, it's growing. But that's the same way they sold the software from the beginning.
Too, what they're saying AI can do, it cannot do it now in a normal average business sense. It has its limitations.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but every iteration of ChatGPT or even Claude, to me, is getting dumber and dumber, because my theory is because the mass of what's online is dumb, and majority of the time, mass of people make the wrong decision, typically. So it is enacting as it is getting better. It is giving you more and more of the percentage that is out there, which is wrong. And so I don't know if you noticed, but the latest iterations, I am getting so frustrated at simple commands that are coming out with just garbage.
Yeah.
And so a lot more tailoring.
And it changes his mind, is multiple times, but then it'll change his mind.
And it's adding too much. Like, no, So I think there's a lot more hardening and everything that has to be done. And that's probably what's going to be, as, I think human race is getting dumber. AI is getting dumber to some extent while it's getting fantastic. And why do you need we're in the .com era again, the same way with software.
Yeah.
So, I know my employees, they can only be good at so many software.
Right.
And so you're embedded, obviously they got to be good at, an email correspondent, Microsoft Exchange. But then do you add on the other networking things? Okay, well, Teams is embedded into that. Now, do you add in, what's the other ones that everybody uses, the tech?
You mean software?
Yeah, to communicate back and forth and project
the messaging platforms.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 4 or 5. So
Slack
how many, not
Slack, right?
Slack.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's fine too. That's a great one. But then how many do your employees need to do? I mean, really, they need to be really proficient at a couple.
You bring up a good point, because
here's
what you're talking
80 of
about,
them.
you're talking about an ecosystem, and all these big companies have created their own ecosystems. You have to basically subscribe to one, and all of that's going to get broken
even today,
down too.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday we decided on we're not moving forward on a particular project because what you sold us, a long time ago, really, it wasn't baked. It did not, it is not connected. It is not fully integrated. Your fully integration is not.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to come back and just say, look, we shouldn't cover the cost on that because it is not there. We'll end up, I'm sure, coming to, a nice agreement. But in general, to me, software companies have gotten away with too much over the years.
They've oversold.
They've oversold everything.
Yep.
And yes, AI is being oversold because it
Correct.
can't do everything, and you can't connect it to everything and run your business. And it's like, maybe a well-intentioned friend that is, halfway informed.
Yeah.
So you do have to monitor it. But to me, that's what sets people aside. I hate LinkedIn because every time you go on it, you can see that 99% of people are using the AI widgets to message you.
Yeah.
And
it's automated bots too.
So it's like, no, I don't want that.
It's like 10x.
So it is definitely watered down areas, and you can just tell. But I think a lot of jobs are eliminated that they shouldn't have been created to begin with. They weren't useful in the ecosystem, and you had a lot of people that had careers of no substance, and that stinks. And but
yeah, that's a big point, because now I'm trained and fully skilled around a tool that doesn't exist anymore, or is flattened. So now there's 30,000 of those recently from Oracle that just got put back in the job market, and they're all looking at each other saying, where do we go next?
Yeah,
because we're not trained on AI. Like, we don't have the skill set to go.
But lateral. I mean, where AI works best is on the coding. Because if you've already created an app that does exactly this, then AI already knows that. So I'm no genius to AI, but I can tell you right now, I could end up give me 24 hours and I could get it, build an app myself.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you can, and people are, because it starts with coding the ones and zeros. That's where AI it came from.
Yeah.
You know,
So
there's
here are the
machine
only things I
learning
want in my app. Only these things. Build it, that, test it.
The farther you get away from that, you end up, more like a human.
So to me, SaaS companies are going to be to the wayside, and everything is bespoke software tailored to the exact needs.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me,
customized.
it's better. We're getting away from the Walkman that can do everything
Mm-hmm.
to, the iPad Shuffle that has, 10,000 songs and just doesn't skip.
It does what you want it to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So software is going to lead that way. And that's where I see AI really helping that. It can do that now.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as the other limitations in space and, our world's very difficult because, you got to have a private environment. The memory on it, which you load in, is not very long. So
you probably have to show your work to some degree. I don't know what that's going to look like on a regulation side, but at some point, I think
you need to build that and pigeonhole it in certain areas to say, this is the framework you just need to work
to show that
for these aspects. But obviously, with everything, you can't replace. You wouldn't want to replace your business exhibit. You would want to run two parallel worlds and say, all right, here's what's going here. Here's what AI is telling me I think I can do. Here's what's happening. And, use it as another advisor, not as a complete replacement.
Right. Yep. Agreed. And I think that's going to happen internally. Knowledge workers, people that are experienced in code or, have depth of knowledge, expertise in a certain area that can build and inform the infrastructure internally because it needs to be custom. And then you're going to have, for lack of a better term, a consultant. But it's going to look a little different. That's more broad and can take the concept of AI and deploy it in these companies privately. But we have a big issue in our economy then because there's a lot of companies that are based around software and SaaS because that was a pretty big era. So,
and
it makes
necessary.
sense.
It brings you to the next era.
It makes sense why they're overselling AI.
But then, you see companies that are going to provide I'm not going to get away from PDFs.
Right.
And so, Adobe's going to utilize AI and just make their product even better. And so I don't see us, and it's going to save them on their workforce. And so they'll be able to scale down and probably be very, so those companies that have built that and already interweaved, you're still going to use them. Are you not?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great example of a tangible, effective use of AI.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas a lot of software companies, they use a lot of features, but they're not really tangible because you're probably not using most of them. And then if you did, you don't really know how, because so I think the benefit of AI is that it can crawl data and you can essentially chat with your data. So if you look at this ecosystem, you've got Microsoft, Google, and then you've got all the different software ecosystems like Salesforce and HubSpot, and the list goes on depending on the company you're running or business you're running. If you can go out and you can't really at this point because it's very cumbersome because there's a lot of barriers. But at some point, if you could go out into all of those ecosystems and come back with the data you need, that becomes a house of cards, and now you become even more empowered as a business and as a CEO to go and get the data you need to do what you need to do with it, and it's very efficient.
Yeah,
it's not bloated.
I'm thinking, I know what I want to do with it over time, and then I'm thinking of where are the security guards? At different times. So anytime you're using AI to touch and either replace a human or to act on something, where are the choke points?
Yeah, if you're tying into these public LLMs, that's
correct. And do you even want to?
Right.
There may be a lot of things. And you say ecosystem. I believe everybody, is going to have their own AI ecosystem that they build their own agents on.
Yeah.
But from there, you're still going to have, you got to figure out your guardrails. So where it's not going to connect.
It's almost like the personal computer, era of instead of having to go to this room and access a computer, you can have a computer on your desk. It becomes very democratized. That's the way I see it. It's a hardware analogy, but I think that's what you're saying too, is it becomes more democratized and individualized to where you can utilize this this tool to your best extent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just think about it. You know, you've got your ecosystem, and then, you know, you've got an employee that comes up with, you know, I wouldn't say an issue, but a new idea in the marketplace somewhere down the road. And then hey, this is a need in our community. Can you get this? And, oh yeah, we can just add that on there and then code it. You give them availability right then and there. I mean, you just, you know, connected yourself, the CEO role, to, you know, those points that are making a difference, and you can eliminate every one of those middle people in between you.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
Awesome. On to the next one.